all of a sudden now I'm blessing the people that matter most to me, and I'm impacting complete strangers. You start to really think in terms of, could I bless that person in the checkout line? Is there a way that my life can have a positive impact? And you start, a lot of people will say, random acts of kindness. I don't like random acts of kindness personally. I like intentional acts of kindness.
Ooh, man, that's powerful. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to the $1 Million Secrets show. Today, I have a very special friend. This dude, I love his energy. I love who he is because he is truly about serving other people. And I actually met this gentleman back several months ago, and he actually came and spoke at an event we were running online. And his talk today, where he's going to be talking about how to become unstoppable in 2023, is really going to help you right now. If you feel like it's just been a crazy world, we live in a crazy time. I mean, if you feel like it's just so much uncertainty right now, you just feel like, hey, is this online entrepreneurship really what I want to do? If that's you, I brought on Jimmy Page today, and Jimmy's going to pour into you and share with you how you can become unstoppable in 2023, especially if you're an online entrepreneur. So Jimmy, my man, how's it going, bro?
It's going great, man. How are you? Good to join you again. I love the Kings and Queens Challenge. That was a dynamic time, and I'm really excited about this afternoon. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. I'm so pumped and excited because if you guys don't know Jimmy, you need to look this dude up. He's an amazing entrepreneur. But then not only that, he has a big heart for missions and some of the stuff he does as well. And so I wanted to bring him on here just because he spoke at our Kings and Queens Challenge that we did back in December, and it literally changed people's lives. Hey, Jimmy, they still talk about it and in our coaching group about some of the simple principles you gave out. So I want to get straight to the meat and potatoes, bro. And if you guys want to learn more about what Jimmy does, who he is, we'll put all the information down in the description. But I just want to go straight to town, helping people become unstoppable in 2023. So, dude, right now we're living in a world where actually I think this past week, all the banks were shutting down. It just feels like right now is not a good time to build a business for some people. It's like, I don't know if I want to do this. But people watching this currently, they are online entrepreneurs. They're the ones that are going against the grain. So I want to equip them with whatever they need to literally become unstoppable in 2023, even if that feels impossible. So let's open this conversation, man. Let's add some gems to their life and help them do this thing.
You bet. Well, I was just thinking that, there are a lot of uncontrollable factors, and there always are, right? So today feels unique, but it really isn't that unique. There's always uncontrollable factors. There's always things that are way beyond your control. So I always start with this place of who do I want to be? Who do I want to be as a person? What are the characteristics that I want to embody? Do I want to be a hard worker? Do I want to be kind? Do I want to be generous, like wildly generous? Do I want to have opportunities to bless other people? I want to decide who I'm going to be first. And then out of that, of course, what you do always flows out of who you are. So once you start to work on yourself and say, what are the key components? What are the key values that I have? Now, what is my life going to be all about? Then you can make the decision about what you're going to do. And then it moves more to this idea of impact. What kind of a positive impact can I have on the world around me? My parents raised me with this idea of, hey, leave it better than you found it.
I like that.
And it's a common statement, right? But if we really mean that, leave it better than you found it. And then I take it a step further and I say, leave people better than you found them. So yes, leave it better than you found it. Yeah, sure. I come into my office. I want it to be cleaner. I have a meeting at a hotel room, and we want to make sure that when we're done, we clean up that space and we restore it to a better condition. Yes, leave it better than you found it. But what if we all said, leave other people, from your interaction with them, from your investment in them, leave them better than you found them? Then I don't think any of this noise, this outside uncertainty really matters too much, because it doesn't deter me from my mission to make the world a better place, to invest in people, and to really make a difference.
I love that, man. That's a whole different perspective when you think about that. And I've always heard that saying, leave, especially whenever it comes to places and things, leave it better than you found it. But I've never really thought about that whenever it comes to relationships. So how have you seen that? Like, have you seen any fruits from you making that a priority in your life? What fruits have you seen come from that?
Yeah. Well, I think every single day you have to orient your heart and your mind. I mean, as a man of faith, I mean, I orient my heart and my mind around the things that are most important to God. The things that matter to God are loving God and loving people. And then as soon as I orient my heart and my mind towards those things, then I ask God, I'm like, well, who today can I bless? Who today can I change? Who can I bring encouragement to? And then once you start being an agent of encouragement, an agent of impact, you see your relationships differently. You see your interactions differently. So, for example, this is a great example. Now, I'll bet some of your listeners are married. Some of them may even have kids. Some are younger than that. And it really doesn't matter what stage of life. But for me, I've got grown kids. And since I see myself as someone who blesses other people, who encourages them, who might be able to share some inspiration or wisdom with them that makes a difference for what they're experiencing right now, I'm way more intentional. So, for example, my daughter, she may need some encouragement today for her next steps in life. So in my mind, in my heart, I'm orienting what I tell her to give her wisdoms to take those next steps.
Right.
So all of a sudden now I'm blessing the people that matter most to me, and I'm impacting complete strangers. You start to really think in terms of, could I bless that person in the checkout line? Is there a way that my life can have a positive impact? And you start, a lot of people will say, random acts of kindness. I don't like random acts of kindness personally. I like intentional acts of kindness.
Ooh, man, that's powerful.
Right? What are ways that I can be intentional about blessing somebody else and about understanding their circumstances and help lift them up?
Man, that's crazy, man. You're just dropping gems left and right. I hope the people are valuing this. So, and like everything you're saying is so powerful, man. And so, whenever we brought you on the last event, dude, you had some powerful principles you shared, and that what you shared during that event was only a portion of them. Yeah. And so, like I mentioned, our audience is primarily online entrepreneurs. These are coaches and speakers. These are people that maybe even just have e-commerce brands, right? They're in this space with me right now because they have an online business in some form or fashion. So, considering everything you just said and, and all the things that you haven't said yet, because I know you're so full of wisdom and you've been in this space for a while, what are some simple principles you would give to people right now in a changing world that would help them become unstoppable in 2023?
Yeah. I think the first thing I would say is you always have to be building value. So regardless of the value you think you're bringing today, you have to build more value always. It's this idea that you put yourself in the shoes of the people you're coaching or the people you're impacting. And you ask the question, what do they need most? And how do I communicate that to them in a way that they can receive it and do something with it? So the more value that I can bring from my side, the more interested they're going to be in what I'm producing. So I always consider the audience. Everyone's concerned with, will my coaching clients like me? Will my audience like me? None of that actually matters. The question is, will you love your coaching clients? Will you love your audience enough to give them what they need to succeed? So I think the first thing is bring value, get your eyes off of yourself, think in terms of what your customer needs, what your clients need, what your audience might need, and then you bring that with absolute passion and conviction. So, there's so many principles, but I do think it all starts with the stuff going on inside of you. We talked a little bit about mindset before, about you have to get control of the conversation that's happening in your head. You have to be able to silence the critics. I think in terms of two inside voices, right? You've got the whiner and then you've got the warrior. And the whiner voice is really loud, really noisy. It's always kind of in your face, always ready to discourage you, always ready to create doubt, always ready to make you compromise or take shortcuts or cut corners. But you have to make that voice real quiet. You've got to recognize that voice, silence that voice, ignore it, and then you've got to really feed the warrior voice. You know, that voice that helps you overcome, the voice that shuts off the doubts and discouragement and all of that and says, what can I focus on right now to overcome? So that internal battle is happening right now for everyone that's listening. They all have doubts, concerns, uncertainty, and you've got to quiet the noise, and then you've got to start to feed that warrior voice. I can do this. I've got everything that I need in front of me to produce a great outcome. I care more about the people than I do about my circumstances. And you've got to start to control that conversation.
I love that, man. And so, man, I wish I could take notes. I'm not taking notes right now, but I think I'm going to go back and rewatch this just because there's so many gems that I'm pulling from this. And so I want to pull out a few things that I've gotten out of this so far. One is being an agent for impact, right? That's going back earlier. I wanted to express that to you, being an agent for impact and doing intentional acts of kindness instead of random acts of kindness. That was so dope for me. But so this whiner versus warrior voice in our head. How does people turn on the warrior voice and turn off that whiner voice? Like, what are some practical things? I'm sure it's not easy to do. And I think back to my life, it's definitely not easy to turn off that voice, especially when there's people and things feeding it. So how do you control which voice is getting fed?
Well, first of all, you have to be willing to shut off the source of the bad information. So we know that whatever you fill your mind with is going to eventually infect you. It can become toxic or it can be helpful. So you've got whatever those sources of information are that are negative or critical or pessimistic, you've got to start to shut off the source. So if that means social media is a negative source of information for you that creates fear and and uneasiness, then you've got to shut it off. If you've got to limit the negative sources, because you really have to, above all else, guard your heart. The way to guard your heart is to guard your mind. So I think that's one thing. I think the other thing is this. A lot of people will tell you, and I'll tell you, to create positive affirmations, right? Sticky statements that are true about you or that are true where you're controlling the conversation. But I really, over the last probably 2 months, maybe 3 months, have figured out that the way to quiet the whiny voice is to seek discomfort. It is to do hard things. So if you are constantly choosing the easy road, the comfortable road, you will never quiet the whiny voice. The whiny voice is going to be massive. You have to seek discomfort. You have to do hard things. And one of the things that I've done to kind of superimpose that discomfort is I started the program called 75 Hard. It's a guy named
I've been there.
Andy. Yeah. Yeah, it's really great. Andy Frisella's the originator of that. He's fantastic. He's definitely edgy, so you got to be prepared for that. But what I love about 75 Hard is, there's 5 things that you have to do every day. If you miss any of the 5 things, then you have to start over at day 1. So that is a built-in, first of all, and the 5 things are uncomfortable. They're things that are going to push you to your limits. But as you do them, if you're on day 20 and you miss something and you have to go back to day 1, that motivates you to double down and to take this seriously and to build in the disciplines you need. So you quiet the voice by doing hard things and then proving to yourself that you can do hard things, because now you've got a mountain of evidence, a mountain of proof that you are who you say you are, that you can do what you say you can do. Until you start doing hard things and proving that to yourself, you're kind of just clicking your heels and hoping. And I think it's time, especially for young entrepreneurs, to do really hard things, prove to themselves what they're capable of and that they are who they say they are. And then the messaging that they give will be so, so powerful.
Dude, everything you just said aligns with my core values like crazy on point. And I've been really a big advocate for doing hard things for the past year or two. I went through 75 hard, and we actually just scheduled something super crazy that's going to push me out of our comfort zone. We're running a race, or not, it's not really a race, but we're doing a 23-mile run. And it's all uphill, right? And so I've found value in doing the hard things as well,
Yes.
right? It's not just to get a badge of honor on my chest. It's not just to hop on social media or YouTube or these podcasts and say, I've done this, I've done that. But no, it's more of the characteristics and the qualities it builds inside of you once you start doing the things that other people don't want to do. And so a lot of times we look at those things, and you'll vouch for this, the things that we've been putting off, the things that we've been putting to the wayside because we don't want to do it and they look hard, are actually the things most scenarios, what we actually need to do. So, just finding ways to put those in our lives and integrate those in our lives is golden, man. I've been advocating for this forever. So thank you for validating what I've been teaching and what I've really believed wholeheartedly. So doing hard things, man, and it's not fun at the time when you got to muster up that faith to get to the edge of the cliff and jump. But I promise you, most times those things that you've been putting off are actually the things that are going to move the needle in your life and in your business. You just got to get the courage to do it. So what would you give to people? What's one word of advice for people that they know they need to do the hard things, Jimmy? They know they need to seek discomfort, but they're just scared, or they're just on the fence. What would be one word of advice for them?
There's, you want to shake them, right? Because we've all been there at that place. I can remember when I was determining whether I was going to start 75 hard, January 1 of this year. I live in Colorado. Okay. There's a lot of snow. There's miserable weather. And I'm thinking, I could wait till April and this will be easier. And then I'm thinking, wait a minute, the program's called 75 Hard. Are you kidding me? So I started on January 1st. I have literally had days negative 16 degrees, sleet, snow, 50-mile-an-hour winds, because one of the workouts has to be outside. And it's a 45-minute workout. But here's what happens. At first, the whiny voice is complaining that you have to do this. And I would say for 7, 8, 9, 10 days, that's a prominent voice. But all of a sudden, something happens. When you start overcoming and doing hard things, something happens inside of you that says, hey, wait a minute, I'm doing hard things. And you know what? No one else is doing this. And there is this sense of accomplishment, like, hey, how many other people are willing to do what I'm doing to get better? And so then it starts to build this momentum. So I would just say the key is to get to that point of threshold where you start to be empowered because you're doing hard things. You're doing things that very few people are willing to do to become your best. And then you're going to speak from a position of authority and experience. You're not just that coach that's telling people good ideas and has never experienced anything. No, you've actually experienced it. So I would say, if you're making that decision, if you think it's the worst time to make the decision to do hard things, it's actually the best time to make that decision. So I would just say, ignore the noise, take the step, and then at some point, 7, 10, 15 days in, you will feel that empowering spirit take over.
Love it, man.
Yep.
Love it. Hope you guys are taking notes on this. This is powerful stuff. Stuff that's super simple, and I say this all the time. Super simple. It may not be easy. It's simple to implement, but it goes the furthest. So I love it, man. So thank you for all those gems on that. So principle number 2, do you have a principle number 2 you'd give to people to become unstoppable in their businesses and their life in 2023?
Well, there's so many, right? I would say that they have to expand their own energy. So I've worked with, in fact, last week I was with a high performance leadership team. There were 70 of their best salespeople in the room. They were performing at a very high level, but their personal health was largely compromised. There was what I would consider low commitment to personal well-being and health and expanding their energy. And I told them this, because I've experienced this. If you are unhealthy, you are underperforming and you don't even know it.
Hmm.
If you're unhealthy, you're underperforming. In other words, you're not performing at your capacity, not even close, and you don't know it. And you won't know it until you start making your health and your energy a priority. So I put them through some drills, and I demonstrated, I gave them a little bit of a wake-up call, and they realized, wow, I haven't moved that much in 6 months. I realize there's a lot more capacity in my tank, and I need to do something about it. And this, you should have seen this leadership team just in a blink of an eye became more aware that they need to work out, they need to exercise, they need to eat differently for optimal energy. They need to clear the brain fog. Most people don't know, but they're operating with a brain fog. They're either dehydrated.
What do you mean brain fog?
Brain fog meaning that you lack the mental clarity necessary to make great decisions and to be optimistic, positive, and have that go for it mentality. What happens is we eat food that basically anesthetizes our brain, puts our brain to sleep, puts that cloud over. Sometimes people will have gotten COVID and they'll say, "Oh, I've got that brain fog. Like I just don't think very clearly, or I don't have the energy and the clarity I need."
Right.
That's largely self-induced by the food we eat, by the lack of sleep that we get, and the choices that we make. You can flip the switch on that and change your mental clarity, your energy, your optimism, your positivity just by taking care of your physical health.
Yeah, dude. Once you said that, and so I just was sitting here, you were telling the story of that, you training these 70 individuals. And whenever you said they were high performing leadership team, high performance sales individuals, in my head, I envisioned people who are at the top of their game in every area of their life. But that's not always the case, right? And so when you think of high performance players that are unhealthy, dude, what you just said, and I don't know if I'll say it the same way you said it, but you said you don't know. Man, I don't want to butcher your saying, but you were pretty much saying that you don't know how much you lack in performance until you start experiencing the health and you start kickstarting your health. And so I feel like that's a big key for entrepreneurs and online entrepreneurs, because most of them, like, I'm a work from home entrepreneur. I sit out on the couch, or I have a standing desk here, but I sit on the couch, sit at the kitchen table, and a lot of times we get so bought into the work. And for some of us online entrepreneurs, I don't know, maybe you on the other end of this camera or the other end of this audio relate, there's some days I work 12-hour days, right? 14-hour days. And I would tell people we have a high performance agency, like we're performing highly, right? But then you ask the question, how's your health? How's your energy?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? And so anyways, that just really resonated with me, because you truly don't know that you're underperforming until you have that wake up call like they had, right?
Yeah. What if you could get far more done in far less time, be way more effective? And that's what happens. That's actually 100% what happens when people start to get clear and physically, when they start to, take it seriously, they are way more productive in way less time, and they're better human beings. They're better relationally. They're better in all of their relationships they have. They're not wasting time. So for example, right now, Michael, I'm working out twice a day. One outside workout, 45 minutes, one inside workout, 45 minutes. I was not doing that before. I've changed my diet. You have to pick a diet on this program. Like, I picked a paleo diet. I'm not eating any processed carbohydrates. I have never been clearer mentally. I've never been more energized. I've never been more productive than the last 57 days. I'm on day 58 today. So once you start to pay attention to that stuff, you multiply the effectiveness of your time. You think you can't carve out that time because you're like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do. But by carving out that time, it makes the time that you're focused on your business that much more productive and that much more effective.
Dude, love it. That's right on point. And so, and I'm just even thinking of this from a leadership, a business owner with employees. How effective would it be if you encourage and push your employees to make their health a priority? Like,
Yes.
wouldn't that make your organization better over time? Because there's so many organizations that I can think of that I work on. They just push performance, KPIs, performance, and just push their employees to the brink of almost,
Yeah.
almost death at times. But what would happen if
Yes.
they flipped the switch and pushed mental health and physical health? What would
Yes.
that do for their organization? I'm just thinking outside the box here. Maybe this is something
Yeah.
that you guys already do. Maybe this is
Yeah.
something that our audience already does, but I'm just thinking from a leadership perspective, how more efficient our businesses could be if we prioritize that.
Yeah. And I know that you believe this too. This is a very simple statement, and one of the things you always say is keep it simple, right? And for me, it's simple, powerful. Everything that I try and teach and live is I'm trying to find the simplest, most powerful way to do something. Not simplistic, like, oh, it's not powerful. No, it has to be simple and powerful, right? And how you do one thing is how you will do everything. My partners are Navy SEALs, and they harp on this all the time. How you do one thing is how you will do everything. And so,
Yep.
for example, I'll give you the simplest example. Like if you compromise in one area, it will create compromises in another. If you cut corners, if you make excuses in one area. I mean, think about this for a second. If I start making excuses about my health because, I don't have time or blah, 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 insert the excuse, I will make excuses for why my business isn't as successful as it could be. I will make excuses for why my relationships aren't as successful as they should be. How you do one thing is how you're going to do everything. I start the day. This this haunts me. Every single day I make my bed because that's symbolic of the idea that I care about the details. I care about an orderly environment, and I care about kind of closing one chapter to go to the next. I also do something. This is really silly. When I take a shower, okay, get real personal. We have these glass doors, these glass windows, and at the end of the shower, I will always squeegee the water off the glass because then it doesn't leave spots. It doesn't require as much cleaning, blah, blah, blah. My wife turned me on to this, I don't know, 30 years ago. Every single day, I don't leave the shower until I squeegee the windows. Symbolically, that actually empowers me to pay attention to other details and to not cut corners because I don't have time or for some other reason. So it really does matter. The type of person that you are is built decision by decision by decision. And if you want to be a person of integrity and you want to perform at the highest levels, you have to care about the small details.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope you guys can see and hear in the voice and feel through the screen. Like Jimmy lives this stuff out. And that's the cool thing. That's why I loved having him on our event in the past. That's why I wanted to have him on this podcast, is because this guy lives out what he's teaching. And because of it, you go look at his track record, read his track record. He's done amazing things. His businesses and organizations are thriving. His family's thriving because he lives by these principles. And so, dude, I just want to say thank you for being a living example of what you're teaching. There's so many people that teach these things but aren't living examples. And it's just refreshing to see that. So I just want to give you kudos for that, my friend. But yeah, little details. And I can even think back, my dude, like, I know this isn't business related, but this struck me back in high school, actually, because I would watch, and this was, years and years ago in high school, but I would remember my teammates, right? Run sprints, or you were running suicides on the basketball court, right? They would find ways to cut corners, and you could see that would leak into their school life, right? I would see some of them find ways to cut corners and cheat maybe a little bit, right? Find other people to do their homework for them. And what eventually happens is that builds a new identity for you. It's not a good identity, but eventually an identity is built up inside of, like Jimmy just said, you're going to be somebody who cuts corners, right? That's who your new identity becomes. And so what do you want your identity to be, right? What do you want to be known for? What do you want ingrained into your system? And so how you do anything is how you do everything. I have another friend of mine that teaches that all the time, and it's so true. So Jimmy, my friend, everything you're saying is amazing. I don't want to take all your time. So let's end this out. So there's some people, they're like, hey, this is awesome. Like, you're very relational based, Jimmy. It's awesome. But hey, I'm stuck right now. Mm-hmm. Let's talk to the person that they just feel like stuck. Like, hey, 2021, 2022 was rough. We just got back from COVID. We'll use that as an excuse, right? COVID hit me in the jaw. I'm trying to bounce back. I know it's been a couple years, but I'm still stuck. What would you give to the people that are listening right now? They have an online business and they just feel like they're stuck and they need a nudge to get them to that next level.
Well, I think the simplest thing to do to get unstuck is to take action. It sounds so stupid, right? Of course. But how do you do that? And here's what I think is the most effective tool that I've found probably in the last 3 years or so. And I've listened to a lot of guys, Ed Milet, Andy Frisella. There's so many guys out there that are really in this space. One of the things that I've adopted is this idea of the Power Five. Okay, some would call it the big three. You might have three things that you have to get done today for today to be a successful day, right? I call it the Power Five. There's 5 tasks that I'm going to put on my board every single day. And those 5 things are the most important things that I could do today, the highest leverage, highest impact things that I can do today. And if I don't get all 5 done, then I will put an L on the board for today. So sometimes people don't like this idea of competition, wins and losses. Successful people like competition. Successful people like wins and losses. Successful people like the scoreboard because it tells you how you're doing. The scoreboard's just information that can help me change what I'm doing to be more successful or to have a bigger impact. So for me, I literally, and my wife saw it this morning, I put 5 key, what I call Power 5 tasks on the board. And those are the 5 highest leverage actions that I can do today. That is going to lead to progress. That's going to get me unstuck. If I get these 5 things done today, and then I get my 5 things done tomorrow, and I get my 5 things done the next day, you will be unstuck. There is no other way around it. Now, if you think 5 things is enormous, by the way, this is not a to-do list where you list 30 things and you do the bottom 5 that are meaningless tasks, but you feel better because you got the 5 done. This is 5 important things. If you feel like 5's too many, no problem. Start with the Power 3, but put 3 important high leverage tasks that you need to get done that are going to move you down the field, that are going to make progress. And I guarantee you, after a week of doing this, putting more W's on the board than losses, more wins than losses, you will be unstuck. You will have made progress. And for me, happiness equals progress. I'm happy when I'm making progress. When I'm stuck, I'm miserable. So you have to do something to jolt yourself out of it and put some wins on the board.
Dude, love that. Get some momentum for your life and your business. Let's get it. Let's get it. Guys, listen, thank you for listening to this show. Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Jimmy, where can people connect with you with? Because we only touch, just so you guys are aware, he could talk about this stuff for hours and hours. Am I right, Jimmy? You could sit on here and you could talk about this because he touched on a totally different topics on our event we did prior to this one. Yeah. And so, Jimmy, where can people go to learn more about what you have going on? Where can they go to connect with you? I want to push as many people possible to you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. I would say this before I give you how to get a hold of me. It's all about being ordinary and extraordinary, right? Each one of us, we all have the same struggles. So I'm not going to put myself up on a pedestal and say I've got my whole life dialed in. Now, I do have more things dialed in today than I did 5 years ago. But as a leader, as a coach, you have to have elements of extraordinary, right? Where what you're doing is actually working, or else you're not going to be of value to somebody else. I will never teach anything that I'm not doing and having success with. Doesn't mean I don't struggle, but I won't teach anything that I'm not doing. And my wife and I just built a marriage program called The Power of 3 because we really believe in building positive, healthy marriages and families. We think that that's actually part of the root of what's going on in our broader culture, is that families are struggling. So the easiest way to get a hold of me is at my website, which is beunstoppable.live.